Hi guys, so today we are going through all of my single eyeshadows to declutter ones that I'm not using. So this includes both pressed as well as pigmented shadows. These little containers here are what I use to store them in. There's actually 2 of them here. You can find these little 15 drawer organizers at Container Store. It actually comes with a lid that goes on top of them. I've actually flipped that lid over and I use one of the lids as kind of a tray for my potted cream shadows. I will link it down below so you can find it at Container Store. Fantastic little storage holder, but as you can see here, things aren't quite fitting in the way that they should. I've tried lots of pigments and single shadows this year. So last time I did this, I kind of went brand by brand. I think what I'm going to do now is kind of go color by color. So we're going to try and sort these between taupes and rose golds and more bright colors and bronzes, and then kind of make sure that I'm not keeping a lot of duplicates. And then I really am going to evaluate, do I think the eyeshadow is absolutely stellar? Is it something worth keeping? Is it something I'm reaching for a lot? Because I do think I have probably more in this little section than I want. All right, that was a very long intro. Let's get into this. Nothing like getting all the way through a video only to realize that you haven't been recording with your microphone. So yay for that. So I'm hopefully going to be able to recreate my thought process for several of these collections. Up first is my taupe eyeshadows. So I've got a number of different finishes in these. I've got a number of different formulas in them. I want to go through and show you guys kind of my thought process and the colors that I like. Taupe is one of those eyeshadows that I tend to have a lot of because it's kind of one of my favorite all over lid shades. I like to wear it by itself. I like to pair it with things. I think for someone with slightly cooler undertones, it's a really flattering color for me. I don't know how else to describe it. Up first, let's go with this one. So this is the shade Nutty from Wet n Wild. It is in their new formula. They had this shade in their old formula, but I never owned it, so I can't compare how this one it was to their old one. It's just a beautiful satin taupe, not too reflective, it's a good everyday color. And then this is from Catrice. This is their liquid metal eyeshadow in the shade Under Treasure. And I think they still make these, but I'm not certain they're still at Ulta. And that one, as you can tell, is a lot more cool toned than Nutty. This one is from Essence. This is the shade All I Need. This used to be at Ulta, and I think now you can just get these on the Essence website. So that one is a little more cool toned even still. This one's got more gold in it, and this one's got more of this sort of almost like grayish undertone to it. This, I will admit, is probably one of my favorite shades. This is Bronzed Taupe from Loreal. This is part of their Infallible line. It is totally a bronzed taupe. It's not too cool leaning. It's not too warm leaning. It's like my favorite darker taupe shade. This is Catrice Glam Fusion. I think they've discontinued these. This is the shade Instaglam. I can't find these on the Catrice website. I can't find them at Ulta. It was a interesting sort of gel powder hybrid. This is a very sheer taupe. I feel like for as dark as it looks in the pan there, what it comes off on your wrist is totally different. This is the shade Gargoyle from Makeup Geek. Oh shoot, I jumped out way too much there. It is a loose pigment, which isn't my favorite format, but this color is freaking metallic and stunning. I didn't intend to pick up any of their foiled pigments, and then I saw, I think it was Kathleen Lights, do a swatch of all of their pigments because she'd gotten them in PR, and I was like, nope. Gargoyle must be mine. This is a Total Intensity eyeshadow from the brand Prestige Cosmetics. These are hard to find. This is the shade The Pewter. These used to be at a couple local drugstores by me, but I can't find them anymore, so I'm not entirely sure if they are still available as a brand. And this one is a lot more gray toned. This is from Natasha Denona. This is one of her Chroma crystal eye toppers in the shade Gray Brown. This formula is thinner, but it's got a lot of glitter in it, like super finely milled glitter. It's not a shade that's going to lay down a ton of color, to be honest, but it's going to go over top of eyeshadows and make your eyes just look wet. In fact, let me see if I can put this on the back of my hand so I have more control over how this looks on camera. Sometimes twisting my arm doesn't really give a full impression as far as how these shades look, I've found. So let me see if I can put this on my hand. Can you see how wet that looks? Like, it's really sort of, I don't know, I would consider this to be like adult glitter. I don't know how else to say it. No fallout at all, just beautiful. I feel like anytime I have an eye look and I'm like, I just wish it was a little more wet looking or a little more metallic looking, I can pop this over the top of it and it just really boosts the color. And then these are my two super bougie Burberry eyeshadows. The first shade here is Pale Barley. This is a shade that I picked up because I felt like every blogger in London was talking about it and I was like, I need that shade. It's taupe, it's beautiful. It is a satin shade, but it's interesting in comparison. It is a lot more cool toned than this shade from Wet n Wild Nutty down here. I love this shade. I am putting it on my friend for her wedding along with a different cream base. And then this is a different formula for them. This is the shade Nude 002 eye color. This is more of a baked gelée texture. It is more cool toned, but holy manoli is it just really intense and beautiful. Like such a nice formula, gorgeous formula. All right, so here's what I'm thinking at this point. I do want to keep the shade Nutty down here. It's kind of a warm taupe shade. I think it's beautiful all over the lid. I'm a huge fan of this. It's 99 cents. I do want to hang on to it. I know I want to hang on to this. So this is the L'Oreal Infallible shade in Bronzed Taupe. Next up, this shade from Catrice in the Liquid Metal. I feel like I can pass this on. It's not blowing my mind from a formula perspective. It's pretty, but it's definitely more gold than I like in my taupes. I'm going to pass that on. I also think I'm going to pass this next shade on. I think it's pretty, but it reminds me a lot of the Pale Barley shade that's down here. And I don't think you can get these little essence shadows anymore. So I'm going to pass that on. And then this as well, this Catrice Glam Fusion shade right here rather is just very pale. It was never my favorite formula. So I think I'm going to pass that on. Bronzed Taupe here from L'Oreal is going nowhere. I love that. I am also not getting rid of the Makeup Geek shade in Gargoyle. It takes a lot to impress me and want me to keep a loose pigment. It's just not my favorite medium to work with, but I love this one. This one here is just a little more dark and gray toned than I like in my taupes. So I'm going to pass this one along. And then I think I'm keeping all three of these. My top coat from Natasha Denona, I'm not getting rid of that. And then my two Burberry shades down here at the end. I really do enjoy both of those. Next up, we're going to go into bronze shades. So I've got a couple of different formulas and styles here. This is from City Color Cosmetics. This is their shimmer eyeshadow. I have recently tried quite a few of these. I think I got one in either an Ipsy or a BoxyCharm or something, and I was so impressed by the formula that the next time they ran a sale, I actually picked up some more shades. So you're going to see this formula a few more times as we go through this. This is the shade Sandstorm. This is a really pretty classic bronze shade. Nice warmth to it, not too warm, not too cool tone, not too orange, just like the perfect bronze shade in my opinion. This is a Infallible Metallic Paints by L'Oreal. This is in the shade Brass Knuckles. A few of these shades performed really well. A couple of them did not. This one did. You can tell it is a lot more gold undertone than the City Color one. This is from Tarte. This is the shade Shakedown. This is a beautiful satin formula. I have traveled with this one quite a bit. Probably should have been in my taupes. Well, I don't know. We'll leave it here. And then this is Christian Dior, super fancy. This, I don't even know if they make these anymore. These are their Fusion Mono Shadows in the shade Meteor. I picked this up. It's a very sort of interesting, it's got some like creaminess to it. I don't know, it's almost bouncy, but not really, I don't know. This is one of those shades that is also what I would consider to be gold, adult glitter rather, very similar to the Natasha Denona. This is one where I love putting it over top of different eye looks to just give me a very wet look. Yes, you can see there. This just gives a really wet, intense look to the eyes. And then this is something called a Stila Magnificent Metals Foil Finish Eyeshadow. Came in this little cardboard box. It had a mixing medium and a tray in there. I've used up the mixing medium. This was kind of a strange sort of, it almost felt like a loose pigment that had like oils in it. So it felt kind of wet when you touched it. It's a strange texture. But the intensity you get off of this is unlike anything I had ever tried before. However, what I found is that although this is a beautiful shade and it's really wet, like I'm just not reaching for this a ton. And I feel like this is many, many years old at this point. And I feel like it's starting to change color a little bit and just get a little strange in the pan. So for as insanely pigmented as this is, I don't know, I wasn't reaching for it a ton. I feel like it's kind of gone off. I feel like it's time for me to just throw this one away. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable even passing this on to anyone at this point. As far as the rest of these go, I do want to keep this first bronze shade. I could see myself reaching for this just to travel with. Classic bronze eye, gorgeous. I don't see myself reaching for a more gold version in this, so I'm going to pass this on. I do think I want to keep this. It is a satiny shade. I've traveled with this for work quite a few times. I like having a more satin, sort of taupey bronze shade, so I'm going to keep that. And then I'm also going to keep this Christian Dior shade in Meteor. I just think it's a really cool color. All right, so here we are with rose gold. I feel like there's a couple different tones of rose gold going here, so I think I'm going to sort these a little bit further here. All right, let's start with my favorite shade. This is a L'Oreal Infallible shadow in Amber Rush. I think this was their most popular shade, and it's funny, even to this day, when I go into my collection and I swatch every single rose gold I own, this is the most unique, the most brightening, the most metallic, foiled rose gold I have. Like, to me, this is like my perfect rose gold. So, love this. I keep thinking I'm going to find a dupe for it, and I just don't. I honestly don't. The closest dupe I have found is from Maybelline. This is the shade Nude Glow. These little single $2.99 shadows were really hit and miss. Nude Glow was beautiful, but as you can see here, it's less foiled. It's a little more murky. It's a very close undertone, but it just doesn't have that pop the way that the L'Oreal one does. This is a little shade from Manna Kadar. This is the shade Fantasy. I think I got this in a Ipsy bag. It is a full-sized shadow. I have traveled with this quite a bit because it's more of a satin. So whereas that's super foiled and metallic, this is a lighter satiny shade, and I found it to be really great for work events. And I also feel like the lasting power on that is beautiful. This is a Wet n Wild loose pigment in the shade Heart of Rose Gold. This came out at holiday last year, maybe it was the year before that. This pigment is supposed to be very similar to, I think, the MAC Tan pigment, if I remember correctly. So it is definitely a beautiful rose gold shade. And I kept this out of the collection because I did really enjoy how this looked, and it really did get more intense when you wet it. This is from the Balm. This is something they call an overshadow. So this is kind of a thinner pigment. This is the shade You Buy, I'll Fly. And it's definitely making a mess here. It's definitely more of an orangey rose gold. It is a beautiful shade. You guys, I have to be honest, loose pigments are not my favorite thing of life. This is a crushed metallic shadow from Palladio. I think you can still get these at Sally Beauty. This is the shade Light Year. That's almost more of a peach than a rose gold. Yeah, it's almost more peach, but hey, we're gonna roll with it. And then this is a City Color Shimmer Shadow in the shade Cheers to Life. I think this might be the shade I got that started me down this rabbit hole of trying different shades from City Color. It is so foiled and so metallic. Reminds me a lot of the Juvia's Place shadows. I think it is a mineral oil based shadow, but it goes on so pigmented and beautifully. And then this is another one from Prestige Cosmetics, their Total Intensity eyeshadows in Copper. This is also super foiled and beautiful. All right, so let's just be honest here. Definitely not getting rid of my L'Oreal one. That's going nowhere. I do think I'm going to pass on this Maybelline one. It is just not as intense as this, and I don't feel like I would use this in place of this at any point. I will, however, keep this one because there are definitely times where I want a really pretty rose gold, but I want more of a satin, and I've traveled with this a lot to know that I really do like this for work. So taking that. I do think I'm going to pass on these two pigments. They're just not blowing my mind enough to hang on to them. I feel like I can reach for either one of these over these two and not miss them. So these are going to go. This peachy shade is pretty, but not a color I reach for a lot. The formula is okay, but nothing to write home about. And then of these last two, I just have to be honest with myself. I don't wear this kind of very warm copper shade very often. I do have it in my collection in other places, but it's not one I'm going to reach for as a single shadow, so I think I can pass this on and not miss it. Do think I want to keep this City Color one though. That's a really pretty bronzy gold color. I don't know, I like this one. All right, so these are all of my golds. I do like a gold eyeshadow, but I feel like there's undertones that I definitely prefer. All right, let's start with this guy. This is another one of the Infallible shadows. This is in Eternal Sunshine. I don't think they make this one anymore, and it's definitely more of a yellow gold shade, but has that beautiful L'Oreal Infallible shadow formula. This is a Maybelline single in the Glow Down. Beautiful formula on this one, definitely more metallic, creamier feeling than a lot of the shadows that they released in this line. So this is the Catrice Liquid Metal eyeshadow in the shade We Are the Champagnes. That's fairly similar to that last shade. And then this is another City Color shimmer shadow in the shade New Year, New Me. That one's a lot brighter. This is from Tarte. This is one of the comb paints in Top Yacht. I don't love the sort of messiness of this formula. It's kind of half pressed, half loose, but it's not quite as well pressed as these L'Oreal ones, so I found it to be kind of difficult to work with. But look at how much more metallic that shade is than anything else on my wrist. If you had asked me, I would have called these metallic shadows until I put this on my wrist, and now it makes all the rest of them look like satins, like one of the most intensely foiled shadows of life. So I forgive it. It's just difficulty in kind of applying to my eyes because it's so freaking beautiful once it gets on there. And then finally we have two more loose pigments. This is the Wet n Wild Icon Loose Pigment in Dom and Cherry on Top, another one that was limited edition for holiday. I think this was 2 years ago, maybe it was a single year ago. It's a deeper gold that has some more brass undertones to it. And then this is another one of the Balm Overshadows. This is in the shade No Money, No Honey. This should have been in my champagnes. Well, it's gonna stay here because that is where it's at right now. In looking at these golds, I think that I can see which ones I'm going to enjoy the most. And as much as it pains me to say that, I think I'm gonna let this first shade here go from L'Oreal Infallible. I feel like it's just a little bit more of a yellow gold than I typically like. I think these two are very similar to one another from Catrice and from Maybelline, but I do think I prefer this Maybelline one just a smidge more, so I'm going to keep it. I could see myself traveling with this single shade here. It's not as intense and metallic as this Tarte one, but I also feel like this one is not going to travel well. It's kind of a bit more of a pain, and I could definitely see myself wanting something that was pretty and shiny, but maybe not like as wet as this one too for work circumstances. But I do think I want to keep both of these. These last two, once again, they're loose pigments, not my favorite formula. I don't see myself reaching for them. I'm not, so I'm going to pass these two on. All right, so these are champagne colors. So these are brighter, whiter, pretty champagne colors. Let's pop all these open and look at them. Actually, let's not pop this open. This is from JCat. This is Shine Your Day. This is the shade, what do they call this? SP102. Vanilla. So this is the shade Vanilla. The pigment might be pretty, but the packaging on this is awful. I don't even want to open it up. It has a tiny little stopper at the top. It goes into this giant cap. It goes everywhere every time I open it. So I am just going to get rid of this one. And this is, actually, let's start with this one. This is from Makeup Forever. This is one of their loose pigments. This is Starlit Powder in the shade 13. This one was constantly out of stock for a while at Sephora because it was so bright and metallic, and I'm fairly certain Jaclyn Hill was using this as a straight up highlighter at one point. So beautiful shade, and this is actually packaging that manages to keep a loose pigment under control, so I do enjoy this one. This is Steal a Kitten, so very famous shade in a single pan form. This is from Maybelline. This is the shade Soft Pearl. That could actually be a very pretty whitish highlighter on someone with fair skin. And then speaking of that, this is the Grammy Goes Glammy from Essence. This is, I don't think, available at Ulta anymore. It used to be. This is a shade I picked up because that Taylor was using it as a highlighter and she swore by it. It is a really pretty color. And then this is Iced Latte in the L'Oreal Infallible line. This one is absolutely stunning. Really bright white. All right, I think I'm going to keep the Starlit Powder, this first one. I also would like to keep Steal a Kitten. I think it's always good to have that in my collection. I'm going to pass on the Maybelline and the Essence one. Just not reaching for them a ton. And then I'm going to keep Iced Latte in the L'Oreal Infallible line. I have 3 silver shadows. I do like a silver eyeshadow, especially when paired with sort of a warm plummy look. I'm going to put a picture of what I'm talking about here on the screen, but I love a silver lid when you do a look kind of like this. So I do want to keep a single shadow in silver. I just probably need to pick one. I don't need 3 of them. So this is the Infallible Metallics in aluminum foil. This is another example of the formula that was great in this line. Very creamy feeling, really metallic, beautiful shade. This is another Tarte single shadow in the shade Flask. That one is also super creamy feeling. And then this is a Maybelline shadow called My Silver. The formula on this I remember being very nice as well. Yeah, so none of those are dud silvers. Those are all nice silvers. But if I think about how I like to wear silver and the purpose for which I am grabbing for it, I think I want the brightest silver that I can get. So I feel like this one from L'Oreal is just a little more deeper and more gunmetal than I'm looking for when I do an all over lid like that. I have to be honest, I was gonna keep the Tarte one, but the more I shift my arm and the more I look at it under the light, let's see if I can do this. I feel like I like the L'Oreal one just a smidge more. I think it's brighter and more metallic and kind of more of what I'm looking for when I do this eye look. So I think I'm going to pass on the Tarte one and keep the Maybelline one. Okay, so now we're looking at sort of pinks and cranberry colors, maybe some mauvey lavenders thrown in. It's kind of all in that color family. All right, we're just going to swatch our way around here and determine what works and what doesn't. So this is from MAC. This is their Extra Dimension eyeshadow in Smoky Mauve. I do really like the Extra Dimension eyeshadow formula. I think it is almost like a baked gelée formula, and I love the shade Smoky Mauve. It's just this lavendery, silvery mauve. It's gorgeous. Love this shade. Now, this is a permanent collection. This does have an imprint in it from Holiday, but this is a permanent color, so you can find it out there now. This is another one of the Balm Overshadows. This is in the color If You're Rich, I'm Single. Yeah, see, that's more of a bronzy rose gold shade. Okay, I think we can still evaluate it. This is the shade Pink Sapphire in the L'Oreal Infallible line. I just did a look with this in my Stepdaughter Picks My Makeup tag. I really thought this was a beautiful pink color. I did really enjoy working with it. This is from Jessie's Girl. This is one of their pure pigment eye dusts in the shade Angelic. This is newer to my collection. I tried a couple of different Jessie's Girl products recently. This is a very, very light pink shade that has almost silver reflecty glitter in there. This here is the Revlon Color Charge. This is one that I just recently reviewed. It's like a silvery lavender color. Really high shine, really pretty finish. Thought it was unique to my collection, and I'm pretty sure it is the more that I look at it. This is definitely new to my collection. This is Sydney Grace. I've not even tried this on my eyeballs yet. This was a part of a GWP from my last order. This is the shade Foiled, and I have not even swatched this guy yet. So let's do that, shall we? Ooh, that's deep. This may be one you have to put a base with, because it feels like it's like the more I rub it, the more it's like shearing out and it's not even there. So not super impressed with that, to be honest. And then this is another City Color Shimmer Shadow. This is in the shade Ladylike. This is a really pretty sort of cranberry, pinky mauve color. All right. Although none of these colors are exactly alike, I also know myself well enough to know what am I going to reach for, what am I going to enjoy the most. Still want to hang on to this MAC one. Do really enjoy that. This bronzy shade I feel like I have already in my collection and in better formulas. I'm going to pass that Balm one on. I'm going to hang on to the pink shade from Infallible, Pink Sapphire. Oh, I missed one. I apologize. So this is the Giorgio Armani Eyes to Kill shade in shade 4. This, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on camera. I'm going to get in. This has so many different colors in it. It's really kind of a crazy shade. Let's swatch it on the back of my hand here. It's very cool tone leaning, but it's such a cool color. Like super high shine finish, really pretty sort of silver micro shimmer running through it. I did really like this formula. I'm not sure it's worth the Giorgio Armani pricing. I picked this up when I was overseas and I got it in a duty-free shop, so at least I didn't pay taxes on it, and I think there was a little bit of a discount as well. So I don't know as if I would recommend getting this, but now that it's in my collection, I think it's beautiful. Every time I put it on my eyes, I'm like, ooh, so pretty. I don't see myself wearing the Sydney Grace shade here. I'm kind of disappointed with how that's swatched. Maybe it needs a base or a sort of liquid medium, mixing medium to make it work, but I don't see myself reaching for this. I do think I'm going to keep this cranberry shade. I could definitely see myself reaching for this. I'm going to pass on this very light white Jessie's Girl shade. It's pretty, but I don't know. I feel like the Makeup Forever Starlit shadow that I just kept has got a similar shine to it, and the packaging is a little bit nicer, and I don't feel like I need both of these. I do, however, think I still want to keep this shade from Revlon. It is a really interesting color, really different than I think what I have in my collection. I don't know. I'm not ready to part with this. It's new and I really enjoyed it every time I used it. So I know it's a hot, messy container, but I'm gonna hang on to it. All right, so now we're looking at blue and green eyeshadows, and I think I have a purple thrown in here for good measure. So let's get all of these open. Let's start down here. So this is MAC, what is this? Steel Blue Pigment. I have had this for so long. I wonder if it's even still good anymore, to be honest. I mean, it really is an ancient color. I'm not even sure MAC still makes it anymore, but the color is so freaking stunning. Like, it's this teal blue gold shift. Like, every time I go to get rid of this, I swatch it and then I can't. Ah, so pretty. This is MAC Blue Brown for comparison. I just have a little tiny sample of it. You can see there's Blue Brown versus Blue Steel. This is a NARS Dual Intensity eyeshadow in the shade Tarvos. I swatched this in store when it came out for spring a couple years ago and about fell over. I thought it was the most amazing mint silvery blue-green of life. I still think so. This is another MAC Extra Dimension eyeshadow. This is in Silver Sun. And I'm kind of curious how close these are. No, they're not. I thought they were very similar. This is a Jessie's Girl Pigment in the shade Antique Green. That is really pretty too. This is a City Color Shimmer Shadow in the shade Evergreen. So a really kind of cool olive green color. This is a NARS. What do they call these? Gosh, this was a specific brand. It's like a metallic one. This is the shade Pygar. I felt like this was a greenish antique gold. It's a really unique shade in my collection. I'm not even sure I have this in any other palettes. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous color. It's so foiled and metallic. Like, it's antique-y and green and gold and even a little silvery. Like, it's such a cool color. This is another Jessie's Girl shadow. This is in the shade Blue Moon. I think I bought this because I saw someone, I saw someone swatching this as a comparative shadow to the one that was in the Mario Kim KW palette. I knew I wasn't buying that palette, but I thought, well, maybe if I just get a blue that I like, I will enjoy it. This one, I think, is one of those ones that needs a base. It feels very thin and sheer. I'm guessing if you wet it, it's a totally different story. And then this is a really interesting periwinkle shade. This is 224 from Kiko Cosmetics. It's their Wet Dry Formula Shadow. And that is really pretty, but I definitely feel like it is more of a satin. It's definitely not metallic. So as you can see, almost none of these shades are like one another. I think I just need to be honest with myself as far as what I'm going to reach for and what I want to keep. I think I'm going to pass on these two Jessie's Girl pigments. I just don't use pigments a ton. I feel like I have blues and greens and other palettes that I'm going to like. This green is definitely a better green than I think blue. Quality-wise, I think the green is better. I just don't see myself reaching for these. Pygar is going nowhere. I freaking love that color, so that I know I'm keeping. I actually think I want to keep these two as well. So one is a little bit more murky and one is more bright. So I'm going to keep the NARS and the MAC. I think I'm going to keep Blue Brown. It's always good for comparisons, and I do really like that pigment. I feel like I need to let this other pigment go. I've not been reaching for it a ton. When I tell you this might be $10 to 12 years old. I'm not lying. I feel like even with pigments, there's got to be a shelf life, and this is so old, I can't even wrap my brain around how old this is. So I think I'm going to get rid of this one finally. I feel like I have greens in other palettes like this, so I think I'm going to pass this one on. And I also think I'm going to pass on this Periwinkle shade. It is pretty, but I don't see myself reaching for this a ton. This next section is going to be really easy. So I have 3 loose glitters here. I'm getting rid of all of them. I've just decided I don't like loose glitter. I have now the Stila Glitter and Glows. So although this one is really pretty, and this one is really pretty, and this one from Sydney Grace looks really awesome, I am just not reaching for loose glitters. I've just decided that I prefer the glitter to be in a base of some kind so I can apply it with a wand versus dealing with loose glitter and a pigment primer and all that jazz. So I'm just gonna pass all 3 of these along. All right, now we come to some matte shadows. So I do like having some matte single shadows in my collection. I think they are great if you are looking at a palette and you're like, man, I want to travel and I really am missing this one particular shade. I have collected quite a few of these L'Oreal, what do they call these? They're Color Riche eyeshadows because I really love the matte formula in these. I don't feel like I need both of these. So this is Wet n Wild, the new Creme Brulee. Beautiful shadow, just a nice cream. Always good to have one of those in your collection. This is the shade Mix and Matte from that L'Oreal line. I feel like these are going to be fairly comparable to one another. Yeah, they are. This is the shade Little Beige Dress. So a little bit deeper, a little bit pinky, a little bit pinkier. Sorry, wasn't on camera there. Let's scoot these over. Next on the deeper shade, this is the shade Matte It Up. This is one of my favorite single shadow shades. This is Cafe au Lait. This is the most perfect taupe transition shade for me. I freaking love that color. I have used the heck out of it. This is Acro Matte, so it's a little bit of a deeper, warm color. And then this is Madison Avenue, sort of a deep cherry cola brown shade. They're so good, guys. And then this is a Maybelline shadow called Fierce Fuchsia. Of all the matte ones I tried, this was my favorite, but I just feel like it's one that I'm not reaching for a ton. It's a hot pink shade. I think I want to keep one of these. I'm going to keep Creme Brulee, and I'm going to pass on this L'Oreal one. Also going to pass this Maybelline pink one on. I like the formula. I do reach for these when I feel like something is missing in a palette. They're great colors. You can definitely make a beautiful eye look with all of these warm shades here. So let's pull this taupe out. Like, this makes the most beautiful matte eye you've ever seen. Like, those 4 colors all together. Stunning. I feel like I've gotten rid of a lot, and I think I'm going to keep all of these. All right, so I probably should have talked about these as part of the last set I did with purples and greens and things like this, but they were sitting off to the side and I totally forgot about them. So let's talk about these here, because this is the last of my single shadows, and these are all the L'Oreal Infallible 24-hour shadows. I really love this formula. We'll see how many I can actually give up. All right, so let's swatch these one at a time. This is the shade Liquid Diamond. It's a very cool toned lavender color. Next up is Burst into Bloom. I don't think this one is available anymore. It's a lavendery pink with, it's more of a pinky orchid color with some silver running through it. This is the shade With a Twist, which is a more cool toned purple. This is the shade Cher Marie. It's a really pretty peach color. This is the color Primed and Precious. It's sort of a gunmetal gray color. This is Gilded Envy. This one is still available, and it's a really cool murky green. Next up is Golden Sage, which is a really pretty mossy green. And then finally, this is Gleaming Bronze, which I don't think is available anymore either, which is almost more of like a dirty olive green. All right, now that I swatched these, I'm definitely seeing some shades are applying better than others. I think these two here are not swatching as well as I remember. It may just be that they're going off. These are discontinued shades, so it may just be, I don't know, maybe they never applied as well. Maybe maybe they're starting to go bad, but I'm definitely a lot thinner, and I really had to build up the pigment quite a bit to even get the swatch you're seeing on my arm right now. So I do think I'm going to pass these two along. I'm also going to pass the silver on. I'm just not going to wear this shade a ton, so I'm going to pass that on. This green is probably a little iffy for me because it's not a shade I wear a ton, but I don't know if I have it anywhere in my collection, so I'm going to hang on to it. I think I'm going to keep these 5 and pass on the other 3. All right, guys, so here is all of my powder single shadows. You can see I have a lot more space than when I started with. And if you were guessing by the look of this, I am close to getting rid of half. So I'm getting rid of 48%. I'm still keeping 39, and I am getting rid of this bin here with 36 shadows in here. So I feel like I have edited this collection down to shadows that I know I'm going to reach for, shadows that have a distinct purpose, shadows that I love. So I feel like I'm in a good space here. And then this gives me some extra space down here for some cream potted shadows that I kind of would like to fit in down here, I think. Regardless, I'm happy with how this looks. I like how it looks in my drawer now as well. I think it's just very easy to grab things, very easy to see things. So that is it for today's declutter. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Let me know down below what your guys' thought is on single shadows. What is your favorite and why? Would love to get your take on whether or not you enjoy single shadows or not, and if so, which ones are your favorites. So we've got 2 more sort of single eyeshadow videos to look at. We're going to look at cream products in my next one, and then after that we're going to look at liquid eyeshadows and some of my more glitter topper shadows. So look for those videos coming from me shortly. I hope you guys are having an amazing week. Talk to you soon.